Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode, or this Wednesday's episode of I'll Take the L. My name is Mary, and I am your host for this show that I do here 3 days a week. Angie, my co-host, will be with us in a few. She is running a little bit late with some stuff. No biggie. She'll join us, which is fine because then I can fill you in on all the new and exciting stuff that's been happening in my life lately. So basically, we had no internet access on Monday, which is becoming more and more of a common thing over here. I don't know what's going on. We have we have a large internet provider, cable service, and they are extraordinarily unreliable as of the last year or so. And I think it may have to do with the fact that they're doing a lot of construction right by where we live. Like they're building a lot of housing and development. And I don't know if they're like hitting poles. I don't know what they're doing. It just seems like every week there's an outage. They had what happened Monday was they had a scheduled maintenance that basically was supposed to go from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. and it lasted till about, I'll say 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was light. It was really late. And then when it came back up, it was so patchy and it was terrible. It was not good for streaming or doing anything else that one would want to do. And then on Friday, I had gotten my first dose of the COVID Pfizer vaccine on Thursday night. And I don't think I had complications or terrible side effects. From what I've read, it seems like these are pretty common, the side effects that I had. But it was interesting. Like I have to say, it was very quick. So California on Thursday opened up a new vaccination to everybody over 16. So now everybody can get it that's over 16, which is great. So I made my appointment, ran over there and got it. It was a very simple, did not hurt. I was surprised. It wasn't very painful at all as far as getting the shot. My arm did swell up and get pretty sore within, I would say, the first 2 hours of getting it. So that happened and that was very uncomfortable. And then I started feeling weird, like I had some little bit of body aches and stuff, but really what hit me was I had hit with like a wall of fatigue. And I think I slept more in 3 days, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, than I have in 3 months. It was just, I felt like I was in a fog. And it was just weird. So I'm really not looking forward to the second dose, which I hear is the worst one. Causes a lot more of the COVID-like symptoms. From everything I hear, it does last only from like 24 to 48 hours. So I'm hoping that is the case for me. I got to go back on May 6th, but I think I'm going to do it whatever the Friday is of that time period. You have 7 days from your date of from when you should come back for the second dose to get. You have a 7-day window to get it. So I think the 6th is a Thursday, so I'll go on the 7th, which is a Friday. So if I'm sick, I can basically just hunker down in my bedroom for the weekend and not worry about school. So for the kids, which is good. Okay. Angie just texted me and said she's coming. So she'll be here as soon. So that's good. Nothing else exciting. Like I literally felt like I was walking through mud and, fighting like an uphill climb the entire time when I got that. So I don't know if that's common, or not, or, if it was just me being really tired and I don't know, but it was weird and it definitely didn't make me feel very well. So I kind of passed on streaming on Friday. I think I was actually sleeping, to tell you the truth. So that was about the most exciting thing that happened as far as updates in my life, as far as like that goes. That's pretty exciting. I'm glad to be vaccinated. I don't know if it's going to make a big difference as far as behavior goes. The weather is starting to get really nice around here. And when that happens, excuse me, people seem to be coming outside more. And excuse me, we live in California, so the weather started being nice about a month ago, and we're already in the 80s. So it's interesting to see lots of people. We live across the street from a park, and we see people in there almost every day, large gatherings. So I don't know if people feel safer or have a sense of security now that the vaccination is open to anyone who wants it. Or if people are just tired of staying in their houses or not going out and seeing other people. It's probably a combination of both. But I think this summer we're going to see a lot of people out and about. And I don't blame them. I'm at a point where I'm like, I got to leave. I got to get out of my house. It's stir crazy, cabin fever, all of that is definitely kicked in. So what else did I do? Kids and I got haircuts, which was exciting. So we all got the same haircut. So we're all walking around the house laughing at each other, looking at this looking the same, which was fun. This is my first COVID haircut since COVID. So I was like, please just chop it all off. My kids haven't had haircuts in forever. My oldest one gave herself a haircut. So we had to kind of fix that, which is always a fun situation to deal with. But yeah, other than that, yesterday was great in terms of watching the verdict come down in the George Floyd trial. That was extremely, I don't want to say surprising, but I was just a tad surprised to see we had a guilty on all 3 count verdict. I was hoping and praying that that's what would happen. It seemed pretty obvious to me. We had footage of everything that happened. So, I didn't think it was going to be a difficult win, but you never know. History is not on the side of always of getting justice in these cases. So I was extraordinarily happy and relieved yesterday to see that. And it was kind of like I didn't think I realized how stressed I was, low-key stressed I was about this, because as soon as they read the verdict, I started crying, like tearing up, because it was just like such a release. And to see people happy and thankful and all sorts of stuff, and thinking about that 17-year-old girl who is the one who stood there and filmed it while she was being threatened by Derek Chauvin with mace and, being yelled at to put her camera away. And she stood there, her and her 9-year-old cousin, who then testified, it's awful, listening to what she had to say was terrible. So it just seemed like it was a really positive ending for a lot of a year of suffering through watching some very painful things. I feel very bad for his family, who had to sit in the courtroom and watch that footage being played over and over and over again. And I think justice was served correctly. So I'm very happy about that. Me personally, what I wanted to talk about today, I'm still waiting for Angie to get here, but I've been in a really weird mental health place lately. I was walking around calling it depression for quite some time, and saying that I've been in a low-key depression where I'm not, feeling like I'm buried under the weight of the world, but I'm just kind of joyless and not really kind of feeling a lot of the things that I want to feel or being happy about things. And and I just kind of was not finding happiness in anything. So daughter wants to come on the air. So I was just kind of not feeling myself for the last 2 weeks, and it's kind of weird. It's been affecting everything I do. So I have not been working out very much. I have actually took this week off because I just kind of decided I was going to give myself a break. I felt a little burnt out from exercising and paying attention constantly to diet and all that stuff. I think it's a very valid feeling to have when you're doing on a health, if you're living a healthier lifestyle. I think it's very easy to get burnt out on the upkeep and maintenance of that every now and again. And it really bothers me because my workouts are something that usually bring me a lot of happiness. And and relaxation and peace, even though it doesn't seem like they would, but they really do. And so to not enjoy them is rough. Also, I was plateauing, and I was kind of just getting frustrated with myself because it seems like nothing I was doing is changing it. But the funny part is I've not been working out now for I probably I want to say almost a week. Like tomorrow will be a week. I haven't really. Here comes Angie. I haven't been working out since I got the COVID shot. So of course now I have lost weight, which is awesome. Oh, love that for me. So I guess sometimes when you hit a plateau, you have to just take a step back. Hey, Coffin Queen, how are you? Thank you for joining us. I really love seeing you here. Appreciate your support. I'm just waiting to see Angie's face before I add her to the stream. There she is. Hello.
I don't want to show my face because I'm not having the best of days today.
All right, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just don't have good lighting, and I don't have a shirt on.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, I don't want to be like the solo person. I want you to. Okay.
Okay.
No, it's fine. No. Let me see what I can. There you go. So then they don't have to look at a big person, like a big half of nothing. That's fine. I don't mind.
I tried to put a picture on there, but I'm an idiot.
Did you not do that? Well, you know what? They're going to have to put up with looking at me and hearing you. So that's fine. You're like the voice in the back of my head. You'll be the Greek chorus behind me. Hey, Becca, how are you?
I should change my name to Jiminy Crickets.
There you go. I was just basically catching everybody up on the crappy internet connection that I've had for the last week or so, and the fact that I took the COVID vaccination and it's landed me in bed for 4 days. Hey, Nova, how are you? What's up? So that was kind of my what you missed, and then I just basically started talking about how I've been depressed for the last week and a half or so, and haven't been exercising. And of course, when I stopped exercising, that's when I actually lost some weight. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been. How have you been?
I've been hanging in there. It's been a week.
Yeah. I did mention the George Floyd trial, and I was very happy to hear the verdict. And that it was extraordinarily, I didn't realize how low-key stressed I was about it, because as soon as we heard them, as soon as I heard it, both of us kind of cried. Yeah, we kind of cried a little bit, and it was just so nice to have a verdict that was, what we all expected and hoped. I mean, we shouldn't be. We should not be. Yeah, he definitely does. The family absolutely deserves it, and we shouldn't actually be worried about not getting a guilty verdict when you have, footage of somebody committing a murder. So I don't, there's a lot there that, would have really been hard to deal with had it not come out the way it did. But so much more to do. So much more to do. It's like a rough week in Minneapolis. Today's it was a good moment, step in the right. Absolutely, Nova. It felt like a win for once. And I hope that everybody who is fighting feels a little bit of peace right now. I know that they're not going to give up. There's tons more work to do, but I hope that they feel like they've done something, that it's not been in vain. That's what I hope. But yeah, today's the anniversary of Prince's death. So it's that holiest of days is also happening today.
In Minneapolis, no less.
In Minneapolis.
All Minneapolis is coming.
They're having a week today. Having a week.
Yes, we're having a week.
But
having a week.
Yeah, so I can't believe it's been 5 years, which is crazy to me. It doesn't feel like 5 years, but I think it was I'm an enormous Prince fan, so this is I was devastated when I heard he died, when I found out. So I think it's a huge loss for music, a huge loss in general. But anyway,
I remember when he died, and I was at work.
Kidding.
Huh?
I thought they were kidding. I had to like double fact check that like 12 places before I even believed it was true.
People literally left work and were like driving out there, and I'm like, why are people driving out there? And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there and see what's going on. Like, you're gonna drive out there and stand outside the gate like weirdos. Like, leave those people alone and let them handle their business. Like,
yeah. I mean, we saw the same thing when Michael Jackson died. Remember how many people went to his hat, like his compound? It was like crazy.
They just stood out there, stood there.
I think people don't believe something unless they see it for themselves, I guess. I don't know. Yes, Becca, he absolutely went too early. He would be, I think he said it would be like, he was 56, 50, he would be 61, I think, if he was still alive today.
That's crazy.
Very young.
That's crazy to think about that. Luther Vandross yesterday would have been 70.
Yeah, and I also found out that Nina Simone also died on this same day.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So a lot of music. We lost a lot of music in this week. And what else was that? The other thing that I read that was interesting about Prince. Yes, I know. The thing I can understand why Minneapolis really like is hurting. Like they they really, one of the things I read about why he loved living in Minneapolis so much was that the city really gave him his privacy. Like they really respected his privacy. So like he would, drive around to like the Dairy Queen or like ride his bike around, and people were just like, oh, like there's Prince, cool. Like it wasn't like he was mobbed all the time. He really, was allowed to live his life, which, says a lot to that. Says a lot about that. So, that I always thought that was interesting. But yeah. So anything else going on exciting to catch up on since the last we've talked on this medium?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I know. It has been. It has been a minute. It has been. Yeah. Like I said, I've just been in a depression, which because I've told you. And then this morning I read an article in the New York Times of all places. And I have brought it up here. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not depressed. So this article is from April 19th, which is a couple of days ago. And it was updated today, which is probably why I saw it. And it's called, there's a name for the blah you're feeling. It's called languishing. The neglected middle child of mental health can dull your motivation and focus and may be the dominant emotion of 2021. And I was like, oh, okay. So the beginning article says, at first, I didn't recognize the symptoms that we all had in common. Friends mentioned that they were having trouble concentrating. Colleagues reported that even with vaccines on the horizon, they weren't excited about 2021. A family member was staying up late to watch National Treasure again, even though she knows the movie by heart. And instead of bouncing out of bed at 6 a.m., I was lying there until 7, playing words with friends. It wasn't burnout. We still had energy. It wasn't depression. We didn't feel hopeless. We just felt somewhat joyless and aimless. It turns out there's a name for that: languishing. So, yeah. And I read this.
I can agree with that too.
Apathy. Yeah. Is that what you're agreeing with?
Yeah.
Social media has a lot to answer for the fuzzy mentality. I also always call it apathy. It kind of feels like apathy. Yeah. It says languishing is a sense of stagnation and emptiness. It feels as though you're muddling through your days, looking at your life through a foggy windshield, and it may be the dominant emotion of 2021. And I was like, oh, I feel so attacked right now. But actually, no, I felt like I feel so seen right now.
I feel so validated right now.
Right, because, it's not, I've been saying it's depression, but I have to be quite honest. I don't feel hopeless. Like I have no sense of hopelessness. I just have and it's not so much that I don't have energy. I just have no motivation. Like the thought of doing things doesn't make me feel excited or anything. Like, for instance, I dread every morning having to do online school with my kids. Like I just dread that. So I stay in bed as long as possible before I have to get up and do it. And it's like every day is exactly the same in a lot of ways because there's a new routine for what the situation has been, and there's not a lot of variety in that routine because there's not a lot of options for it. And I'm almost to the point where I'm like, it's way beyond boredom, it's way beyond cabin fever or stir crazy. It's just kind of like bleh. Like I just don't like it's almost like why it's not a why bother, it's just kind of like I'll get to it when I get to it kind of get the feeling.
Right.
And
I feel like I went through that in 2020. It was like it was terrible. It was a horrible slope. It was a downward trend, and it started with like, I don't know, just this feeling of confusion or the fear of not knowing, you know, coming home from work in March. Right. And then I don't know, just being alone and like being disconnected caused me to kind of feel like I was kind of languishing around at home, trying to, you know, how do you, especially when you're a social person, like 2020 taught me how social I really am. I thought I don't like people. I hate people. No, I don't. Like, give me a 2-week vacation at home alone. Okay, great. I'm ready to go back to work now. Like that's what I found out about me. But, you know, trying to connect to work through a computer, not so much, you know, trying to connect to that social, I don't know, just caused me to do that. Yeah. And the dangerous thing is that downward trend that languishing can have. So like figuring out, you know, now you've got that like side of your nose, that finger on your nose thing, like, oh, that's what this is. Like, so what am I going to do now? Like, or am I going to do anything now?
Yep. I think we're stagnating, and I'm not sure what would help shift the energy either. Well, Becca, there is something he talks about in this article, but before I get to that, I just wanted that you brought up, Angie, that having it in 2020, and it's interesting because they make a point of that. They say in the early uncertain days of the pandemic,
uncertainty is the word I was thinking of too.
It's likely that your brain's threat detection system, your amygdala, was on high alert for fight or flight, as you learned that masks help protect us, but scrubbing our packages did not. And you probably developed routines that eased your sense of dread. But the pandemic dragged on, and the acute state of anguish has given way to a chronic condition of languish. And it says in psychology, we think about mental health on a spectrum from depression to flourishing. So flourishing is the peak of well-being. You have a strong sense of meaning, mastery, and mattering to others. I'm not sure I felt that way 100% before the pandemic, but I definitely probably was close to that. Depression is the valley of ill-being. You feel despondent, drained, and worthless. So languishing is the neglected middle child of mental health. It's the void between depression and flourishing. It's the absence of well-being. You don't have symptoms of mental illness, but you're not the picture of mental health either. You're not functioning at full capacity. Languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus, and triples the odds that you'll cut back on work. It appears to be more common than major depression, and in some ways, it may be a bigger risk factor for mental illness. And later on,
this got me in so much trouble at work. Like, I'm not kidding. This put me in a position at work where I had to like go to my boss and tell her some things that if I didn't have the boss that I had, cutting back on work. Oh man.
And it's funny that you're all like, oh my God, now, because it says part of the danger is that when you're languishing, you might not even notice the dulling of delight or the dwindling of drive. You don't catch yourself slipping slowly into solitude. You're indifferent to your indifference. And when you can't see your own suffering, you don't seek help or try to do much to help yourself. So then they talk about like one of the best ways to deal with emotions and feelings is to name them. So they gave this a name, right? And I have to say that I actually do feel like, oh my God, there's a name for what I'm feeling. It's not just laziness or depression, because don't really feel, again, I don't feel hopeless and I don't feel despondent. I just don't feel like much of excitement about anything. Right. And my focus has sucked. Becca says, this makes so much sense. I was about ready to go sick a few weeks back as I was not functioning properly or able to sustain focus or mind. Absolutely. Right. I keep hearing that from everybody I'm talking to lately. And this was before I even found this article. The biggest thing that I kept hearing from people was, lack of concentration, lack of focus, lack of motivation. I don't even want to get dressed to go to another Zoom meeting. I just I don't even bother anymore. Like I started out this pandemic, like getting dressed every day and like going to my meeting. And then now I don't even care. Like everybody's just kind of over it, but not, I'm sure in some places some people, it is depression, but I think in a lot more people, it's this concept. And the problem is with this concept is one, we didn't know what it was. Right. And two, like it says, we don't notice that we're doing it until like we're really deep in it. Burnt out. Exactly. Yes. Coffin Queen. Definitely. I think it's a bigger, I want to say it's a broader term than just burnt out. I think it encompasses like, I think it might be a sliding scale of burnout, maybe but it's a bigger picture. And then the thing that it said was, when it talks about being more susceptible to mental illness, is that later in the article, he says that people who have suffered from this are more likely to develop depression at some point. So this can lead into depression if, you don't recognize this and make any changes that possibly could help you. And here's the other part that I love about this, right? So psychologists find that one of the best strategies for managing emotions is to name them, right? So they did this, and they talked about, I don't know if you remember this, but like last year when we kind of were in the thick of lockdown, I think Harvard Business Review had an article about grief, right? About grieving, like, the students grieving the fact that they're not going to go to school, they're not going to go to prom, they're not going to just, we're grieving that we had to cancel vacations and plans and, which things that we would necessarily say sound stupid to be that upset about. But in reality, we were all really upset about because this really affected our lives in a way, it really was really disruptful. So that article in the Harvard Business Review was the absolute most downloaded article and viewed article they've had ever. That's how many people resonated with that. And it felt like it was basically like a description of everybody's collective feeling at that point, right? It was the most viral post in the history of the Harvard Business Review, which is something to say. And then it gave us a familiar vocabulary to understand what we'd felt like an unfamiliar experience, right? Yes, definitely. So naming languishing is the first thing. It could help to defog our vision, giving us clear window into what has been a blurry experience. And it could remind us that we're not alone. And that's the part that I think is really helpful. Languishing is common and shared and could give us a socially acceptable response to how are you? Instead of saying great or fine, imagine if we answered, honestly, I'm languishing. It would be a refreshing foil for toxic positivity, that quintessentially American pressure to be upbeat at all times.
Absolutely.
And that is the other part that I was like, yes, like to be able to say how I feel and talk about it with other people in a way that they understand. So
you can identify with.
Yes. And just also giving everybody permission that it's okay to not feel okay. There was a lot of that going on at the beginning of this pandemic where people were like, if you didn't learn how to do this or learn how to cook or bake or didn't lose 20 pounds, it was never about you having time. It was about the fact that you're lazy. It's like, no, it really is not about that at all. This is a traumatic situation, and not everybody can deal with it the same way. And not everybody can be so productive. And, it's just, I always had an issue with that because, this toxic positivity thing just drives me crazy in general.
Right. And
so,
you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Even if you did learn how to do something, because you know what, I learned how to grow microgreens. I learned how to tie-dye. I started to declutter my apartment all during the pandemic, and I still languished and spiraled into a severe depressive episode. So
Right.
it's not even about time.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. Toxic positivity. It has one has absolutely nothing to do with the other.
No.
I can learn how to do brain surgery and still spiral into severe depressive episodes. So
Yep. And I might want to choose to focus my attention and energy on something I might find more joyful than my work. Right.
right.
Like, because I'm upset and, in a heightened state of anxiety. So if I find that, knitting makes me calm and I enjoy doing it and it's fun for me, but I still know I have to do like a pile of work that's sitting over there, I'm going to ignore that pile of work because I want to do what's going to make me feel good right now, not
Right.
What needs to happen. So yeah, I always hated that mentality about it.
I mean, it's an encouraging mentality. Like, that's what encouraged me to learn how to tie dye. It was like, somebody asked me a couple of questions. I heard people saying that, and I'm like, hey, I'm home. I don't have anything to do, and there's something wrong with me. I don't feel good. So let me learn how to do something. I love learning how to do new stuff. But yeah, like, that's not what I needed. Like,
right.
I had a problem. And
yeah,
I think it's like that, just to hear that named. If I had known then that this isn't just, it's not just about a feeling. It's more than just feeling like, like Beckaroo, apathy is a great word for it, but I feel like apathy is a feeling, but languishing is a state of being. But I guess apathy is a state of being as well. But and when you tie it into depression and mental health, it makes it different, because I found myself questioning at a certain point, like, is there something wrong with my head? Like, do I need help? Do I need therapy for this? Like, even in the midst of getting therapy, like, I didn't talk about how I felt with this particular situation because I wasn't sure if, like, is there something, is this something I need to talk about? Or
right.
And then the next thing I know, I was like in the darkest of places. It was just like, just doing wrong, and then I fell into a hole.
Right. And even if you could talk about it with somebody, could you even figure, like, effectively express what it was, right? So, like, apathy is a good thing, a good word to describe it. But I think, I'm thinking, the more I think about it, the more I think maybe a distinction between the two is, like, when you're apathetic, you generally really don't care. I think when you're languishing, you know that you should be doing things and you kind of care about the fact that you're not doing them. But at the same time, you don't have the motivation and energy to do them, right? So I think that may be the difference, but that might be that's probably open to interpretation. Hey, Lane B, how are you? So Becca said, at work, we had to push to support urgent services in peak pandemic and then sustain that pressure and demand. And we're all languishing because we need a change or step down from the damn Rona issues. No kidding. Hey, Tina. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Tina. Because that makes complete sense. And also, Becca, you guys are probably, you're expected to maintain, it's like panic level of alertness, right? And readiness and response. So, like, you're constantly in a state of adrenaline fueled, like, anxiety because of what you're dealing with. So that's not good to stay that way. And we've now been over a year now. She says, pandemic lockdowns made it okay for me to just care for me and my basic needs. My God, I needed that wake-up call. So it has been a weird blessing in some ways. Yes, I absolutely agree. I think at the beginning of lockdown, I was very kind of relieved because I kind of felt like I was needing a little bit of a break from life my life was a little hectic at that point. Plus, well, I've told this story. Like, my husband was unemployed. He got laid off the previous year, and he didn't start. His first day of his new job was the first day of lockdown. So I made a joke saying, like, normally it would have been great to, like, have a little bit of time to decompress from an unemployment situation and then a major pandemic. But apparently we're just going to slide right into one right into the other. And, that was kind of how it was. And then having being in lockdown, like I didn't go into lockdown until maybe maybe a week or so after when they really started enforcing it. I realized, okay, breathing, like I have some time now to kind of, calm down and take a step back. And then I, was able to focus a lot more on myself, my family, and to be calmer. But man, like it got old, it gets old really quickly.
That's awesome, Tina.
What'd she say? Pandemic cut my commute to work and allowed me to have more time to myself, and I used it to lose 55 pounds. That is amazing. Was also a blessing to bless me. And that was what I was going to say, Tina. I was also able to really focus more on my diet and weight loss, and that was good for me in that way, that I could get on board and really get back into the swing of it more than I had, because I had been working a lot more to cover, because one of us wasn't. I was working a lot, so I kind of like didn't get as much of a chance to dedicate to my health and my fitness. So this was kind of a nice thing to have, that I didn't, I could have some time. But it was, it was really kind of, I felt like I went from one insane situation into another insane situation. Like I literally remember sitting in a parking lot at Save Mart, about to go in to go food shopping, and Scott was starting his first day, and like while I'm in that parking lot, they're saying that lockdown is happening, and I'm like, oh, now I have to go fight people for toilet paper. Like, great, can't wait. So it was really like there was no break between that and for us, as far as like just even being able to breathe a little bit. So I think what she said, I do wonder if the pandemic has revealed we have created unrealistic lifestyle routines. Yeah. We have to have office work, have to do stressful commutes, have to do 50 million social. Yes. And this is something that Scott and I talk about a lot, because his new job that he started right on the first day is a remote only job. So he is a remote worker. And the company that he works for is very okay. They're set up for this. This is what they're used to. There's not even like a real office where his group kind of even meets or based out of. So, and watching that, how that works, and thinking, we talk about how many offices have, shut down or like kept closed while people were telecommuting and working from remotely. And at some point, right, there has to be a thought that, wow, we can save a lot of rent on our building or a lot of expenses on maintenance and stuff if we don't keep a real physical space, right? Yep. And a lot of people, they say, like, I haven't looked recently, and I don't know how pandemic actually affect. Like I would have to look it up, and I wouldn't want to quote. But prior to pandemic, it was shown that remote workers were more productive actually than people who went into an office. I don't know how the pandemic and then having your family or whatever around distracting you all day, hits productivity, but if you're somebody who can work remotely, and it doesn't matter if you work at 3:00 in the afternoon or 3:00 in the morning, this is like a pretty good experience probably for you in a lot of ways. And I just feel like a lot of jobs are starting to realize that we don't need to have a brick and mortar place possibly. And I think we're going to see that changing a lot.
Brick and mortar place.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be, at least in that regard, as far as the costs of upkeeping a physical location, I think are people who is something that people are thinking about a lot. I think that's definitely shown that it's definitely possible. Not happy with it on the education delivery, and I can say that from my kids' perspective, and then what I see from my colleagues who work in academia, that it's there are varying levels of success with the online learning programs and stuff. A lot of places, a lot of schools that offer online programs and have been offering them have their kind of way of doing things pretty much set up, and they know it like back and forth. But I think a lot of people who had to take their courses and make them online, it was very difficult. And it took a lot. There was a very steep learning curve for that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I know we've already seen in academia campuses that are closing, colleges that are closing because of the loss of tuition, that they cannot stay open. And we're going to see more and more of that. There's going to be a lot of these small, colleges and small universities are really, a lot of some community colleges and some, places that are tiny, that, really, really rely on that tuition dollar. And we're going to see that. It's going to be interesting. The fallout from this is we're not going to even see the full fallout of this pandemic for probably another few years. Like, I really believe that. And I believe it even in, like, I think, we're never going back to whatever pre-pandemic normal was. Right. So I think there's a lot of people who really still expect that to be happening. And I think that it's not going to happen.
I think that's why so many people are so angry right now, is they're coming to terms with that. I know that I struggle with that, because I say that in therapy all the time. I'll start crying and I'll be like, I just want to be the Angie from 2019. Can't I just be the Angie from January 2020?
Right.
I could do so many other things back then that I can't do right now. And it's just not going to happen. I'm finally at a point where I'm like, okay. I'm not going to be her. I'm somebody else right now. So let's take that attitude about tie-dyeing and learning how to do this and learning how to do that. And let's find out who 2021 Angie is, because I
know. So Becca added before, just to get back, she said, yes, I'm way more productive at home, but I'm lucky enough to have my own office in the house and only have a cat to distract me sometimes. That is clutch. The own office in your house is pretty clutch. Because I can tell you, not having your own office is a problem if you have a family. And then Lane said, my MBA program is fully online. Well, that's not for everyone. I love being able to learn that way. I think it's so cool that I can do so much classwork anywhere, but the program was set up to be online. Absolutely. And I actually taught in several online programs. So I am absolutely 100% behind online education. I think it's fantastic. And I know it's amazing the thing that struck me was seeing the difficulties that are still happening with the delivery of the online educational experience. Because I haven't taught an online class in probably 10 years. I've been 7 years since I had my daughter. And it wasn't the easiest, slickest thing to do then, but we had done it. And, even now, and I say that with all the better technology we have, we're still hitting the same kind of stumbling blocks in how to deliver, effectively. And it's not, there's a lot of things. It's not just within the school part of it. There's also outside extenuating circumstances. Like, for instance, my situation where my internet connection has just decided it wants to go down all the time because something's going on. So things like that are also things that affect it. And she said, some are making students pay more for online classes. I chose a fully online program before the pandemic because it was so much cheaper. Yes, absolutely. That is always the draw to it. Also, the whole getting it done quickly, 24-hour, 24/7 kind of experience. But what is really kind of interesting is how a lot of these colleges and universities are keeping the kids to paying their tuition for on-campus classes, but they're making them take them off campus, and that's a huge problem. That was a huge thing that we saw at the beginning of this academic year. Was were students like, why am I paying all this money if I'm at home learning, right? I paid for an on-campus experience and I'm not getting any kind of discount for it. And the university, and I agree with that mentality, but the universities and if they had to do that for everybody, they wouldn't be able to stay open. That's the reality of it. If they don't have that tuition money, they're not going to be able to, that's not feasible for them. I think we'll be able to do everything again eventually, but in terms of lifestyle, we've got the advantage of being at home a lot more. As we've seen, it's a bit better for some people. Absolutely, Becca. I agree. I agree with that. The thing I think about though is that, for some people it's not great.
I think it's an understanding now. I think it was an understanding before that everybody had to be social, everybody had to be out. Working in an office was the norm and the expectation. I used to watch these digital entrepreneur videos all the time and on YouTube, and how to, take your work to Cambodia and all this other stuff. And I used to watch these people talk about negotiating to work from home full time with their boss and negotiating a pay cut and all this stuff because if you let me work from home and I'll pay for the internet and I'll take a $20,000 annual cut because I can be all this stuff that now you don't have to I'm not taking a pay cut, I'm not taking a pay cut to work from home. Nobody has to now.
Right. There's no reason to.
And now you're looking at flexible workspaces, flexible work times. And Tina, congratulations. You earned every single bit of that. You earned every single bit of that. But yeah, so I don't know. And now I don't know. Although I do wonder, Becca, when we're free again, and you can't see me, but I'm air quoting free. When we're free to be us again, is there going to be that sort of pressure expectation? Oh, we can do it again. We can go out again. Let's hit the bars. Let's have the house parties with bonfires. Come on over. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I think it's going to have, I think there's two sides to that, right? I think there's two ends of that. I think there's going to be a huge amount of people who are going to be let's hit the bars, let's have the party, because I have not been doing this for a year and a half. And then I think there's going to be the other end of the people we haven't done this for a year and a half and I've survived and I don't care. And it's I don't need to do that. I'm perfectly happy at home, so I think, I didn't really think that I was the most social person on the planet. I know that I like going out and I like seeing people, but once I couldn't go to the gym, the gym was my once a day, getting out into the public and dealing with people. And once that stopped, I was wow, I really missed that. And I always thought I was I'm not the biggest people person on the planet, but just to get out and see everything, see people and be out with other people around other people's energy was, so I think I'll still be just as much a homebody after as I was before. Absolutely. I think, except for traveling, that's a big one though, right? I mean, I hope that we don't have. Yeah, I just, the other thing I saw this week come through was we're putting 130 new countries on our do not travel list now, right? Because the CDC and the Department of Health, because of, I guess.
Beckaroo, I hope so.
Yeah. So we'll end up doing our old activity. I hope so too. But what I got from that article was, and it was kind of a very long-winded way of saying that the people who now work at the CDC and the State Department are actually now reading the recommendations that are coming from the CDC and from all the scientists, and they're going to actually act upon them. That was the backhanded thing I got from it. So they're going to restrict travel again. And so I just hope that, eventually, not that I was this great world traveler, but I did like to travel a lot within the United States and to go to places and see. I would like to, I hope that we can get back to that part of normalcy. That would be great. I'm dying to go someplace
Well, I'm not dying to go nowhere. But you know what I'm dying to do? Because I'll tell you, oh, Becca said, I have a long-term health condition. I found it hard going to be on the go 5 days a week and constantly getting burned out. Now it's the first time I'm able to sustain a job.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I hope your boss recognizes that and they are going to accommodate that and like see that that's a really that you've actually flourished during this period, and that this might work best. You found a really good way of working out of this.
Yeah.
So hopefully that continues for you. So the article then goes on to say that there's an actual antidote to languishing. Okay, so what can we do about it? A concept called flow may be an antidote to languishing. Flow is that elusive state of absorption in a meaningful challenge or momentary bond where your sense of time, place, and self melts away. So during the early days of the pandemic, the best predictor of well-being wasn't optimism or mindfulness, it was flow. People who became more immersed in their projects managed to avoid languishing and maintain their pre-pandemic happiness. An early morning word game catapults me into flow. A late night Netflix binge sometimes does the trick too. It transports you into a story where you feel attached to the characters and concerned for their welfare. So while finding new challenges, enjoyable experiences, and meaningful work are all possible remedies to languishing, it's hard to find flow when you can't focus. This was a problem long before the pandemic, when people were habitually checking email 74 times a day. In the past year, many of us also have been struggling with interruptions from kids around the house, colleagues around the world, and bosses around the clock. Fragmented attention is an enemy of engagement and excellence. So it says in a group of 100 people, only 2 or 3 will even be capable of driving and memorizing information at the same time without their performance suffering on one or both tasks. Computers are maybe made for parallel processing, but humans are better off serial processing. So this means we need to set boundaries. So we need to find uninterrupted time for ourselves. Okay, well.
Just for ourselves or for our tasks?
It says, yeah. For ourselves. It says,
I live by myself.
Yeah, it says, years ago, a Fortune 500 software company in India tested a simple policy: no interruptions Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday before noon. When engineers managed the boundary themselves, 47% had above average productivity. But when the company set quiet time as official policy, 65% achieved above average productivity. Getting more done wasn't just good for performance at work. We now know that most important factor in daily joy and motivation is a sense of progress. That's the key word there, I think. That if you feel like you're actually making progress on something, you feel better about everything, right?
That's the absolute key. I fell behind in my work significantly. And when I talked to my boss about it, I developed a flow. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I talked with my boss and my coworkers. We developed a plan, and I laid out my plan, and it involved a lot of overtime initially, and then it involved absolutely no social media during the daytime, no interruptions, no phone calls from family, no phone calls from friends, no text messages, nothing. I use focus apps during the daytime. I focus for 30 to 90 minutes at a time. And the only thing I can do during the time of those focus apps is to get up and go to the bathroom. And when my focus app time is up, I can get up and I can stretch my legs. I can get something to eat or whatever. And as I see and I set weekly tasks. So I don't look at the big project. I look at, instead of 1,000 little tasks, I have 60 little tasks, you know, and then I can see the progress of 60 as opposed to 1,000, and then, 70. And it worked like a charm. And when I fell off of that, I started to languish immediately. I immediately noticed a difference. And I immediately noticed a difference in how I felt about myself and the quality of my work.
Absolutely.
Immediately. And immediately. That's exactly what it is.
And so Lane says, I have trouble with studying in my apartment, and now it's hard to go sit at a coffee shop. My apartment complex is nice, though, and it lets me sit in the closed That's awesome. Yeah, it's hard when you have to be at home. It really is.
I bet it has, Scott.
Yeah, Scott says where I work, they're starting to mandate a day of focus, no meetings, no outside, just work, and it's raised productivity greatly. Yeah, and also my husband, he also Scott. I don't mean to air your business. He started using like you did. He started using like productivity tools where he would like keep track of stuff. So like he breaks down his tasks, and like as soon as I read that line about feeling the thing that makes you feel good is progress, he's someone I immediately thought of because I immediately saw a difference in Scott's personality and his even just the way he was feeling. Like it was immediately a change for the positive because like, you know, he felt like he was accomplishing more. And it may be that he's just doing the same amount of work, but he's recognizing more that he's doing, you know, I don't know. Like
sometimes you just feel like you're spinning your wheels if you're looking at a list that's 70 pages long and it's got, you know, a tiny little print and thousands of words and, you know, you're just crunching and crunching and crunching and crunching and you just can't see the end.
Yeah.
You're frustrated.
When I worked, my time was mostly taken up with meetings, lots of meetings. And then I would rarely have time to do any of the work that I agreed to do or was assigned to do in those meetings, because from the moment I walked out of a meeting and would walk from the meeting room to my office, I would get stopped by like 20 people on my staff to like intervene, answer questions. So it was like impossible because I managed a very large public services area that, you know, I was always needed or for something, or they wanted, you know, and that was the nature of the job. And it was part of why I liked it. But what I ended up learning how to do was something that we call defensive calendaring, right? So we used like whatever Outlook or whatever calendar we were using at the time. And I would just block off like entire like blocks of time on my calendar, not specify what it was for, like that anybody could see. It would just say that I'm unavailable. So if they were going to put me in a meeting, they would not be able to put me in a meeting during that time, so that I would end up having like an hour or two a day to like do work because I just couldn't.
Otherwise, they'd take it all.
I couldn't. Yeah, they would take all my time, which is sucky. The thing is with flow, you become in a state of flow where the activity you have initiated keeps your attention and is enjoyable. If you set time and force it, you risk it becoming a chore. Absolutely. Breaking it up is easier to stomach, and you feel like you're progressing as you check off the boxes. Absolutely. Yep. Google Calendar tasks are my go-to. I talk my phone too much, setting them and stuff. And Scott said, yeah, absolutely. It's the small victories and acknowledging them. So just to close out this article, which is good. So they said the pandemic was a big loss, and just transcend languishing, try starting with small wins, right? Like the tiny triumph of figuring out a whodunit or the rush of playing a 7-letter word. One of the clearest paths to flow is a just manageable difficulty, a challenge that stretches your skills and heightens your resolve. That means carving out daily time to focus on a challenge that matters to you, an interesting project, a worthwhile goal, a meaningful conversation. Sometimes it's a small step towards rediscovering some of the energy and enthusiasm that you've missed during all these months. And then it says, languishing is not merely in our heads, it's in our circumstances. You can't heal a sick culture with personal bandages. We still live in a world that normalizes physical health challenges, but stigmatizes mental health challenges. As we head into a new post-pandemic reality, it's time to rethink our understanding of mental health and well-being. Not depressed doesn't mean you're not struggling. Not burnt out doesn't mean you're fired up. By acknowledging that so many of us are languishing, we can start giving voice to the quiet despair and lighting a path out of the void. So I thought this article was fantastic. Obviously, since I read the whole thing to you guys, but like, I can't even tell you how I was just like, yes, I kind of know what's wrong now. And I mean, I agree with all of that, you know, like, the part that I really like the most out of that is to just be able to say to somebody, I know what's wrrong with me and this is what it is.
Right.
And then for them to be able to understand that. And
sounds like somebody's fired up right now.
Yeah, I'm fired up. I'm going to go right back to sleep after this.
Take out the trash and go to bed.
Right. But, you know, I think like honest to God, there is joy to me, to right now, there was joy in finding out that there is a name for what I was experiencing and figuring out that I'm not just like in a wave of depression, and that I'm not like other people are feeling this too. And it's not just some weird thing that I'm going through. Because like I said, I don't feel hopeless. I'm not like in that down in the dumps depression where I know what that's like, because I have depression and I take medication for it. And I know what it is when I get it. It was just this literal like I need to do this stuff, but I'm going to sit here and wait 15 more minutes before I do it. That was the feeling. So yeah, it made me feel a lot better. And then there is another article that was kind of attached to this, like, read this for further reading. And it was funny because it was talking about if you haven't felt productive during this pandemic, like we were talking about. And the thing that I found was really funny was they had New York Times sent out surveys to like 300 people in all walks, all ages, all like different professions. Like they would say like librarians, like doctors, lawyers, like, machinists, like all different types, students in university. And like they were saying like most people were responding that they were not feeling any kind of motivation at all. And so the one quote that was really funny to me was they got one back from a college student and was like, and they were just like, I am so unmotivated, I don't even want to fill out this survey. I was like, same, man, same. So if you want to, you can go look up on the New York Times, just do a search, New York Times and languishing, and you'll find this article. And the other one linked, which I don't know if it's down here. Let me see. It's called, there's a couple here. So they're it's called All About the Feelings. So they have an article called We've All Hit a Wall, the Main Reason for Your Pandemic Boredom. That's the one that I was talking. The hit a wall and the main reason for your pandemic boredom are the other two. And it's interesting because they provide actual data for what's going on. And I always like to see, numbers when they talk about things like this, which is, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel very less alone in my struggles.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there is a wall, I think. And I thought for a long time that the wall was what I was feeling. But I think it's almost like the wall is like, I'm tired of the pandemic, in a sense of I'm tired of like having to think about it.
Yes, and having to take responsibility for it. And everything you do, you have to consider everybody, people you don't know, strangers you walk past on the street, who you sit next to on the bus, who you shop next to, and did that person cough? Did I sneeze? And
before you joined us, I was saying how I was talking about getting the vaccine and how I'm in California, so the weather turns nice very soon here. So we've had nice weather now for about a month. And we're already hitting 80 degrees, and people I live across the street from a park, and people are already out all over the place. And, I think, on one hand, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to die. But on the other hand, I'm like, I totally get it, because I want to be out of my house and hanging out with people too. Right. Yeah. So I said, I don't know if the vaccine is making people feel more secure about it, or if people are just tired of being in their house. I don't know. But I've said from the beginning that when the summer hits, it's going to be, people are not a lot of restrictions are just not going to be, be held. Like people are not going to be abiding.
So I don't understand. If you get the vaccine, what do you do after you get the vaccine?
Well,
I haven't gotten mine yet.
All right, so I went on Friday to get my first shot, Thursday, and what I thought was interesting. So Thursday afternoon, California opened it up to everybody over 16. You are allowed to get one. Okay. So I as soon as I saw that come across my news, I was like, I'm gonna go find one, and I went and I booked it right to my urgent care. So I had an appointment. I got in and out. I got in there in like 5 minutes. When I went in, there was nobody there. When I walked out, there was a line packed down and it was mostly 16 and 17-year-old kids, because they are so tired of not being able to do anything.
Right.
That they wanted this. And I get it. But here's the problem. And I feel better that I've been vaccinated? Absolutely. Yes. And I have to go back for my second shot. And I think with the Pfizer one, I think I looked it up. It's like after your second dose, you get it's like a 95% immunity, 95% chance of like not getting it. Right. So, but here's the thing, that this is what I keep getting hung up on. And this is why every time I'm like, oh, we got vaccinated, I'm like, that we can't. I have 2 young children that can't be vaccinated.
Right.
So
you still can't just go, you still gotta live your life like you don't have the vaccine.
Right.
And so people still can't just be out here willy-nilly, because there are still high risk people out here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Every day.
I mean, not everybody over the age of 16 is going to be able to get the vaccination for whatever medical reason they might have as well. So, I wouldn't like I said, I have two small children. So like, that is my immediate concern, like not having them get sick at all. And not, bringing something in, not exposing them to the virus, which is why we kept them home for homeschool, like online schooling, and which is why I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm doing next school year, because I don't know what's going on yet. But I had read, somebody made a comment on something that on group or something I was in. They said, are we all just going to pretend like our kids aren't people either? Like, like that. And that was kind of like the end, people were all so excited. And then somebody was like, last time I checked, our children were still kind of like, people that live here on the planet that we have to deal with. And, that's kind of the thing that's still in the back of my head all the time. And it just kind of, I don't know. I do. So Becca says, you still need to follow guidelines as it's not clear about transmission/contagious levels, side effects if you're exposed to COVID when fully vaccinated, right? And what I will say is I work in community health in a building with 30 plus peeps, and we wear masks, clean workspaces, hand wash, social distance, no outbreaks, even in peak numbers, PPE, hand washing works. Absolutely. It absolutely does.
Becca. And Becca, you know what else? It works for everything. It doesn't just work for COVID. It works for RSV. It works for influenza. It works for why is it leaving my head right now? I want to say C. diff, but it's not C. diff. It's cystic fibrosis. It works for all sorts of things.
Right.
Who'd have thunk if you just wash your hands?
Right.
That just how many of these nasty Americans?
That's what I'm saying. How many people didn't wash their hands? I was like, ew. That was what I was kind of grossed out by. But here's the thing, though, Beck, that I kind of gives me pause about school, and maybe they're going to change this. I don't know, but we still kind of get every week. I'm still getting notifications of people getting positive COVID cases in the school. Here's the problem that I see. It's all self-reported. So every morning I'm supposed to fill out this questionnaire for my children, reporting whether or not they've had COVID signs, been in contact with anybody, blah, 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 right? So it's all self-reported. There's no testing. Now, I get it that the kids aren't going to be tested, but the teachers aren't even being tested. And that's all self-reported. So how do you even know if you have it or not, or you're asymptomatic or anything, right? So that's kind of, I'm going to give you the story. This just happened. And I know, like, you're going to think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. My kids had to go for, they did, like, the district was doing testing, like the state testing that they do a couple of times a year. And so the first 2 rounds of it that they did it online they offered it online, and my kids, they're in the online academy. So that's, theoretically they're not supposed to be in school at all. And then for this one round that they did like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, they decided that it was going to be mandatory that everybody come on campus for it. And I was just like, what? like, why? Like, why would you do that? Why are you making the online academy children come on campus? Like, they had already had like a return to campus, like half day kind of situation going on for everybody else that was not in that or who opted, to go to class. So I'm not even kidding you. The week that my kids were supposed to go, and so I had a problem with it because we have a respiratory compromised person in our house. So I was like, there's no way I'm sending my kids to school. So they just said, well, you can opt out of the testing. Fine. Did they not send a friggin' email home for 2 days, the 2 days that my kids had to go on, were supposed to be in the building, saying that they've got COVID tested positive people, like COVID. And I was just like, this is the point I'm making. Like these, and this was specific to this group of people who was coming into this campus, to this part of campus. Like it was a specific group of people that were going. So, I'm just like, this is what kills me is that, if we had some kind of testing in place where like, the adults would be tested on the regular and they would know if they were asymptomatic and still carrying, or that they could get they would know immediately or have some indication of what their status was, and not self-report that they're fine and then find out a week later they're not. I'd feel better about it. But that's my issue with sending them to school. Now, I am at the point where I'm so tired of seeing my children every day that I might send them back to school. I don't know. Like, we're still trying to figure it out. But, I just in that way. But, like, that's my concern. And that's the same concern I have when I say, let's go someplace. Like, my kids can't get vaccinated. I don't know who's walking around and what they've done or where they've been or who they've been around. And I'm not going to take a gamble with my kids' health. Like, it's not something I'm willing to do.
Absolutely.
I've never been one of those people that's like, everybody's going to get it anyway kind of situation.
Right.
Like, I'm very science-based. I believe in science. I believe in what they report. I read about the way that the disease progresses and presents in children, and it scares the shit out of me. So, it's a hard decision to make.
And if you are listening out there and you are somebody who believes that children don't get COVID, stop believing that. That's not true.
It's not a lot of them. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm willing to consider they get it. There's only been something like 300 deaths in children from COVID. The thing I'll tell you what scares me about it, and I've said this a lot, is that the way it presents in children is very different than it does in adults. And the way that I've read, the predominant way it presents is with high fever and vomiting, which are two things that I would never in my life consider bringing my child to an emergency room for. And I'm sure as hell not going to bring them to an emergency room for that during a pandemic. Right. Because when they were younger, my kids run very hot with fevers. And we've had the situations where I've taken them to urgent care. I've taken them to the hospital because I was like, holy shit, their fever is like 104, 103. And the doctors were like, that's fine. Like, that's normal. Don't worry about it. Do ibuprofen and Tylenol. You're fine. And that's always what we've done. And it's always been fine. Like, it's never had an issue with that. Never failed us. I would never think of taking my kids to an emergency room for either of those symptoms. And it's literally like where you're reading that this is happening. The parents are like, take the kid to the doctor. Like, I read one story where the mom took the child to the doctor. The kid was running around the waiting room, eating, being a kid, totally fine. And he died later on in his sleep that night from respiratory failure. So it's like, that scares the shit out of me. I'm sorry. I know the odds are really low, but like, that's the kind of thing. Like, I just, knowing that, and then there's like this whole thing where they get it and they recover, but then like they go into this like inflammatory response, kind of weird syndrome that happens. And like, it's another thing. So it's just like, it's different for children. And it just makes me very nervous. That's my feeling on it. So I really try to limit the exposure that they have. And, I really do think that now that we have a vaccination, everybody's just out there like, yeah, let's go open season. And I'm just like, I don't know what we should do. Like, I honestly, the thought of spending another summer like this makes me ill. Like, I'd like to take my kids to the pool. I'd like to go, I'd like to go to the beach. I'd like to take them on trips, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, it's really causing me a lot of low key stress. So Becca says, do you guys not have lateral flow tests available? They're like pregnancy tests, but with sputum, nasal stuff. No, they're not doing anything. They're not doing any testing. They might put something in. I'm hoping they do something in place for the next school year. Yes, immune system cyclone. Yeah, Becca, that's what I'm reading about, and it's scary what these kids are ending up in the hospital with. And it can be fatal. So that is the thing that gives me much pause about celebrating a vaccine. I'm very glad that we can get it. I'm very glad that everybody, has an opportunity that's over 16. I fully endorse getting vaccinated. I just wish that we had one for children. And at the same time, I'm not about to offer my kids up for a study about if the vaccine works or not either. So, I'm really putting myself in a position here, right? Like, but I don't want them to be part of a clinical trial. They're about to sell self-COVID tests at CVS now. Oh, good to know. Thanks, Tina.
I think they have them already at Walmart. I think I got a Walmart notification because yes, I have the app on my phone and I'm proud of that. And I got a notification they have the 2-pack for like $15 or $20 or whatever.
Yeah. So these are all the things I think about now when it comes to the next school, the summer and the next school year. So, yeah. So like, is it any wonder that I just want to lay in bed and not do anything?
Exactly.
like nothing's going to change ever. It's never going to change. We're going to be doing this forever. Yeah. So what I'm really hoping is that they are doing clinical trials now with children. Thank you to all those people who are volunteering their kids, I guess. And thank you to the children who are taking part. And hopefully they'll have something that the kids can take. And, if it's proven to be effective and safe, my children will be there to get one. But not yet. We're not there yet. Oh my God, we have them from work twice a week. Same for schools in other areas. It's so bad they sell them when it's a national crisis. Yeah, it is, isn't it, Becca?
Well, you can still get them for free. Like, you can still get them for free. I was looking on the State Board of Health for Minnesota, and like all over the State Board of Health, it says, "Do not pay for a COVID test. You don't have to pay for a COVID test. There's no reason to pay for a COVID test." So, like, I think the deal is like the places that you can get the free COVID test from, like you can like order a COVID test for free, but all of those are like connected to the state, and so there's a time limit on those. So they don't want you to like get a bunch of free tests and then sit on them just in case.
Right.
If you want to sit on a test, then go buy a test. But if you're going to get a free test, they want you to use it right away.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference. And I think that that's fair. I think if you want to have COVID tests on deck, I think that's fair. Go buy them and keep them in your bathroom or store them appropriately. But if you need one and you need it now, get the free one because they'll get it to you in no time flat, whatever. Follow the directions. There's links all on. I think if you go to Becca, I don't know if you're in the States or if you're in another country, but in the States, if you go to your state department health, just look and see if there's a place to get a free COVID test. And your state department health website should be able to help you find that.
Yeah, and I have to also say, as far as getting vaccinated goes, it was easy, so easy to sign up to get a vaccination.
It's just hard to get an appointment.
It's hard to find a place to get one, but it was very easy to get it. In terms of, once I found a place to get it, it just took me to fill out a form and go. Yeah, NHS. Okay.
Because in the UK.
Yes. So I knew this was going to happen. I knew I was going to talk to you and feel better because my therapy session.
Okay, I'll send you my bill.
Yes, please send my bill. Send your bill. Bill's in the mail, right?
No problem. I think it's most important to make sure that if anybody comes across this and they hear that L word languishing and they identify with it, like just know that, you know, we're out here languishing with you, and that's the word. It's languishing, and there's nothing wrong with you, and you can get help. Like I say, there's nothing wrong with you, and there's help at the same time, because
no, but that's true.
It's
like,
true. It's true.
There's a name for it. You're not crazy. You may not be depressed. And, you know, there's this weird there's this weird place in between. Right. And there is a way to deal with that. Yes. So, you know that the best part of it was knowing that there was a name of it and that other people were experiencing it. Yeah. So many other people were experiencing it that they felt they needed to give it a name. Right. Right. So it's a common thing. So on that note, anything else you'd like to add to that conversation, Ange?
I'm just glad I made it. I'm sorry I was late.
Don't worry about it. They just had to listen to me talking about my life.
It's just been a week here in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and I got a lot of people checking in on me and catching up, and that's the other thing for all of us languishers. You know, we're still loved. We're still loved. All of us are loved. And
there are people and that would be also a good time to remind everybody that, you know, check in with your friends, your loved ones, everybody, you know, just text them, an email, a line, anything. It's probably would mean the world to everybody. Check on your people. Check on your people.
Check on your people and check in with them and let them know how you're feeling. Let them know if you're languishing. We'll put the link to the article down below so you can reference it for your friends and family, and you know, talk about this stuff. Like, let people know what this is and what you're going through, and if you can identify it for somebody else who you think is struggling.
Yeah. I mean, I've been emailing this link out to everybody I know lately. I'm like, here, take this. So I will update the description to put the link in. Not a problem. I believe you can use it if you get a free account, or if you don't have an account, they have like you know, you can get X number of free articles or whatever. So you should be fine to you should be fine in accessing it. It shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
On that note, I'd like to thank everybody in the chat and everybody who's watching or tuning in this week. It's been another really fun conversation. I thank you for everyone listening and giving us feedback. We are so thankful for your support. We really are.
Absolutely.
Just to let you know, if you haven't read the little scrolling thing on the bottom, so we're halfway to affiliate status, which means that once we get there, Angie and I can start putting the money away for our retirement funds.
For my skin surgery.
That's right. So we're almost there. We just need a few more followers. So if you are enjoying the channel, and if you haven't followed us yet on Twitch, please do. We so thank you for that support. We would love to be able to get to affiliate status, not just because it gives us a few pennies, but it actually lets us give a few little perks to you guys too, fun emojis and things like that. So it'll make it a little more fun to be interactive on Twitch. So if you haven't already, again, follow the channel, share it with your friends and anyone you think would be interested. We would really, really appreciate that. I'd like to thank all of the channels and DJs that we have listed below on our Twitch stream. They are all fabulous. We've gotten so much wonderful support from them. I particularly the real JJ, Danny P. Love him to death. He's been so supportive of the show. Shouts us out when he gets a chance. We really appreciate it. If you are not subbed to him on Twitch, you are missing out on some of the best music DJing that you've ever heard. I say this, I am a music snob, and this man, I am extraordinarily blown away by his talent. He's very talented, 36 years in radio and DJing, fantastic. He plays all sorts of music. Tonight is 80s night. Like I say every Wednesday, the best party out there online. Come and give it a whirl. It's the best time you can have. If you love 80s music, it's definitely the place. Tonight, since it's Prince's, the day of Prince's death, so he's going to be a little purple tonight, but Like I said, if you're not subscribed to him or following him, check him out, as well as all the other DJs listed below. If you like what you hear here, make sure you come back on Friday at 5 o'clock for some more. If you like what you want to hear and you want to hear something a little bit different out of my mouth every week, on Sundays, I do a different podcast on Twitch called Iron Girls, where
somebody's a chatty Kathy.
I am on this top. Which is 100% not feelings and all facts about health and fitness. I believe this week we are going to be talking about body dysmorphia and image. So that is actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately. If that is something you are interested in talking about or relate to in any way, you might want to check that out. Sundays, it's usually at 12 Pacific. It's linked below on Twitch here. If you're on YouTube, check us out on Twitch. It's Pigs in Space is the channel name for I'll Take the L. You can find me there. I think I've linked all of our social media on there. There should be social media linked on YouTube. If not, I will add it to the description for us after this is over. Again, thank you so much for all the support. Angie, thank you for being here with me as always and listening to me.
I didn't even get to sing the theme song today.
I know. We're going to have to sing it on Friday. You have to come up with something on Friday.
We're going to have to come up with an outro too.
Yes. I'll have to figure it out. That's what my husband texted me. He's like, you need something cool to come on before you go on live. And I'm like, okay, we'll work on that, I guess. In all my time that I have that I'm not languishing, I'm going to work on putting some video. It's going to be great. Love it. Thank you to all the creators in the chat. Nova, if you're not watching Nova's channel, check her out. She's got a great channel on YouTube, Nova Ray. She talks about wonderful, relevant topics of what's going on right now, in social media and in society. So she's great. Yes, society. But always a good time in her streams and chat. Always gives you a lot to think about. I always feel like I'm using my brain when I'm in Nova's, listening to Nova's streams. Yes, indeed. Yes. So on that note, guys, I'm going to bid you farewell for the evening. Again, thank you, Angie, for joining me as always. And I will talk to you again on Friday, and I'm sure I will text you later tonight.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.